The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has declared Governor Ademola Adeleke the winner of the Osun State governorship election. Adeleke polled 511,067 votes to defeat his closest challenger, Bola Oyebamiji of the APC by 66,252 votes. But beyond the final results, what actually shaped this election? How did voters respond to the process, and what does the outcome tell us about INEC ahead of 2027? Joining me to discuss this is Mr. Nelson Ekujumi, an election observer who monitored the election across Osun State. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nelson.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Before we go ahead, sir, I would love us to take a look at Governor Ademola Adeleke's first speech after his re-election. Let's take a look.
I therefore dedicate this victory to the good people of Osun State. I deeply appreciate your resilience, your strong will, and your unwavering commitment to democracy. To serve you better, I will reinforce my strong points and correct my errors. Osun will witness further accelerated development and growth under my renewed 5-point agenda. At this point, I must deeply appreciate Mr. President, His Excellency Senator Bola Tinubu, for his strong support for a free and fair election. Mr. President is a son of Osun State, and I hereby reaffirm my earlier endorsement of him for a second term in the 2027 presidential election. All lovers of democracy, I thank you for supporting our struggle from home.
All right, that was a video of Governor Ademola Adeleke's first speech after his re-election. I am Salome Oladipo, and we have Mr. Nelson Ekujumi, an election observer who was live at Osun State. Before we dive into our questions, Mr. Nelson, let's hear your experience at the off-cycle election in Osun State.
Well, thank you once again for having me. The election, like everybody who watched it, maybe through various platforms, is one that INEC kept to its promise of the bargain, like it has always done, except in some situations. By 7 a.m., INEC personnel and security agencies personnel were already at the polling stations. And by 8:30 a.m., after all necessary formalities had been concluded, the polling officer at the various polling stations scattered around across the 30 local government of Osun open poll at 8:30 a.m. and accreditation and voting commenced. The turnout for the election by the people of Osun was very, very massive. We had huge crowds at polling stations, and the beavers machine was used, and the machine worked efficiently. And the official closing time of voting was supposed to be 2:30 p.m. But in many places, the close of polls extended beyond the official closing time because of the mass turnout of voters. And at the end of the exercise, the election was completed at the polling stations. Ballot papers were sorted, counted, and figures according to how they were derived from the ballot papers counted were entered into Form CAT. From there, the results were transferred to the Ward Collation Center, then the Local Government Collation Center, then the State Collation Center, where the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Adeleke, who was the Chief Returning Officer, received the results from the various local governments by the returning officer for the local government, who were all academicians, people from the ivory towers, including the VC himself. And at the end of the whole exercise, the winner was announced and declared elected. So it was a very interesting time in Osun State. You saw a people who came out and who showed to the whole world that, look, our faith in our electoral system remains unshaken. And that is why the people came out with that numbers, even though we had some ugly incidences pre this election in terms of violence. But on the day of election, because of the deployment of security architecture across the state, we can report that cases of violence was very, very minimal or zero, except for there was a case of tear gas discharge at a rack center in Modakeke. In Modakeke, yes, I remember, in Modakeke. And some persons wanted to play it off that it was an attempt to intimidate voters, when we all know very well that there's no voting points at the rack center. The rack center is a place where the electoral office or electoral umpire distributes materials as well as deploy its men, to the various polling stations. So by and large, we had a good time in Osun State. It was very tense, but the people came out, and you can see that the election was very, very local because the people interacted among themselves. We didn't know who was voting for who. Everybody went there, casted their votes, and at the end of the day, the exercise was concluded, and everybody is happy that the will of the people, was exercised.
Analysis, and we are going to take it one step at a time, because from what we saw across Osun State on Saturday, we saw a significant number of electorals come out undeterred about the recurring violence in Osun State. Well, I'm actually taking you somewhere. Before the off-cycle election, a number of us saw the off-cycle election as a dress rehearsal or even a litmus test for INEC. But from your own point of view, how did INEC perform?
Well, the assessment of INEC a lot of times have been jaundiced. If you are patient and observant enough to go through how elections are conducted, a lot of the misrepresentation of what INEC does will not be there. But because the media itself is also complicit, we have people who don't know anything about the conduct of elections reporting electoral matters. When you expected that they would have been, they would have gotten some education on the process. But a lot of times, whether they are looking for clouds, I wouldn't know. But the fact remains that INEC under Professor Atairu Jega, former INEC chairman, who was succeeded by Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, and now by Professor Josh Amupito, has not changed in any bit from its mandate. Elections have always been conducted in substantial compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act. So when you say it's a litmus test, I didn't see it that way. In 2023, INEC conducted till date, that election was the best general election we have had in this country. Where an Okada rider emerged as the House of Representative candidate in Etiosa, even against the ruling party's candidate, where persons ran an election against incumbent governors for senatorial tickets, and the incumbent governors lost. So when people come, sorry
Sorry about that, sir.
When people come out and tell you it's a litmus test for INEC, we want to see what INEC is because they are being biased.
Okay.
It's because INEC will only conduct election satisfactorily if their candidate or their interest wins. But the moment their candidate or their interest wins at the polls, INEC has compromised. Let me also remind you, in 2020 in Edo State, when Governor Obaseki was on the ballot, he was going for a second term. I've said this on several television stations and radio stations. On the morning of the election, after Governor Obaseki cast his ballot, and he was accosted by journalists who wanted to have his view about the election, how it was going as the chief executive officer of the state. In that morning, Obaseki said, INEC has rigged this election. INEC has compromised. They are already writing the results. the security agencies are this, are that. There was nobody, no institution, no word, no derogatory word that then Governor Obaseki did not use on INEC and the police. Lo and behold, when the election was concluded and the declaration and announcement of winner was made, and it was declared that the same Governor Obaseki who said the election was rigged in the morning was the one that the mass majority of the people of Edo State voted for. With the same mouth, Governor Obaseki came out again and said, oh, this is the best election INEC has ever conducted in this of elections in this country. That even before that, INEC is the best institution God has created. Not knowing that maybe in the euphoria, he forgot that it was not God that created INEC, but the Nigerian Constitution. So that is to tell you the mindset, the type of blackmail against INEC. I have observed the election from 1999, and I can tell you that I remember vividly that there was a time in this country where the electoral umpire was absolutely compromised. He was working in cahoots in the then president of Nigeria, former President Olusegun Obasanjo. That was the era where President Olusegun Obasanjo told us that Nigeria's election is a do-or-die affair. And in 2007, when late President Umaru Yar'Adua emerged as president, if you remember, he publicly came out and said, this election that brought me in is a compromise process, that in good conscience, he cannot hold that mandate and, entrust it to somebody else through the same fraudulent process. And that was how he bet the wise panel on electoral reforms, if you remember. So, with the deployment of Vivas, IREV, and other technological devices, our election, I can tell you with all sense of responsibility, will rank as one of the best comparable to any other elections in the world.
All right. So in the words of Mr. Nelson, perhaps you saw the off-cycle election as a litmus test or dress rehearsal. Mr. Nelson is here telling you today that you are biased. Mr. Nelson, yes, you were an observer at the last election, but can I ask what party you were endorsing or you're supporting at the election?
Well, as a Nigerian, I have my political leaning.
Of course.
But when I'm observing an election, I keep that aside.
Okay.
If anybody comes out and tell you that I'm not supporting any party, it's a lie. But when you are doing that job, that your political interest, that your bias, you hide it. Because if you bring it out, it will taint the credibility of your observation.
All right.
And don't also forget, in observing an election, there's a code of conduct that we are supposed to abide with from the electoral umpire. So if anybody tells you that I don't have any political leaning, well, I'm not one of those. I have my political leaning, but when I'm doing the job, I report objectively because my duty on election day is just to observe. How they vote, who they vote for is none of my business because I'm not the one who is going to count the ballots. And I cannot campaign for any political party on election day because everybody is there, everybody is watching. And you and I know that it is a criminal, it is an electoral offense for you to do that. So whether you want to believe what I've said or not, I have a political party I support. But my political party that I support
for the fact that you're an observer,
is not something
you have to put that difference aside. All right, very good, Mr. Nelson. Now, let's come to the numbers. I actually want to get your line of thought on what actually motivates an individual to register, then get their PVC, and what actually ultimately motivates an individual to go to the ballot and cast their vote. Because when we put the numbers together, in Osun State of election, for the registered voters, we had about over 2.3 million naira. On the issue of PVC collected, we had about over 1.9. When we're talking about accredited voters, we also had over 1 million. So now for valid votes, we had 985,079. Then for rejected votes, we had 20,721. What's your line of thought on the margin of the numbers? Because personally, the rejected votes are actually so much. So what do you think transpired in Osun State between the people that actually collected their PVC and what exactly would it have taken for them to actually go to the ballot box and vote?
My dear, you said 2.3 million naira. It's like you like money too much.
Million.
Yeah. You said 2.3 million naira
All
instead of
right, all
2.3
right.
million voters. It's like you like money very well, so you have brought in money into this. The registered voters for Osun State is 2.399 million voters.
Yes.
The total number of voters who collected their PVC was 1.9 million, according to electoral umpire. And if you look at the figures after the announcement and declaration, you realize that over 50% of the people came out. I've not done the mathematics yet. About 1,055,000, which means, unlike before when we were doing 22, 28, the highest we have done, I'm not sure we have done up to 45. Maybe the highest we have ever made was 41% of voters turnout. What motivates a voter to turn out is that a Nigerian who is past 18 years of age is eligible to vote. And he or she must know that whoever he or she votes for will determine how his life or her life will be for 4 years. So that is not that for the fact that you are the one who decides who rules you, to be a great motivator for you to come out, to register, to collect your PVC and vote. Some other persons register, collect their PVC for various reasons, and on election day, they might not turn out. Some of them see the voters card as an identity material. That, oh, if I want to start a business, maybe a bank comes into my market now, and they say, where's your ID card? They'll be asking me for a national ID card. Thank God for the national identity system. So they can easily present the voters card. Why people go to the poll and make the mistake of invalid votes is a pointer to the fact that we still need to educate our people on the rudiments of how to vote. The parties are trying their best, but a lot of times what we do on TV and radio is just to analyze. We don't tell them that, look, on election day, when you go to the ballot station, when you get your ballot paper, you just put your hand on the ink, then thumbprint in a circle. You don't have to put all your fingers, just put small, then remove it. Then make sure the hand that you have used to touch the ink does not touch another place on the ballot paper. Then you fold it and you put into the box. So whether it is one ballot paper that has become invalid or 1,000, because I have never voted as a Nigerian. I have never voted and made that mistake. It means I'm highly educated about how to vote. So what that has shown us is that we all need to up our game. Every one of us, including the media, that look, Nigerians, this is how we vote.
So we need
Teach
more
our children,
advocacy in Nigeria, in this part of the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So it's not news that Adeleke won very comfortably, winning 19 local governments out of 30. You were on the political ground and you were physically there. Beyond the final figures, what do you see at the polling units that suggested that, yes, Adeleke truly won? Did he win because of his individual credentials? Because looking at the election, we've seen that it's no longer about party, it's no longer about structure, because some people would say that in Osun State, Accord had little to no structure. So what exactly did you notice at the election regarding the off-cycle and that brought Adeleke in?
Well, if you are looking at one single factor that made Adeleke of the Accord Party to win, then I want to believe strongly that you'll be very, very wrong. You'll be wrong analysis. There were a multiplicity of factors. If you say Accord is a party does not have structure, don't forget.
I said
Adeleke
some would
was
have
in charge.
said, not personal belief.
Just a minute. Let me have my seat. Adeleke came into office in 2022 on the platform of the PDP. And the PDP structure was under his firm control. And in moving from the PDP to the Accord Party, naturally, a lot of structures under the PDP will also move with him because they know that he is the one who is playing the tune. Like we say, you who plays the piper dictates the tune. He's the one blowing the trumpet. So people, if you know you want to dance, you must move with him so that he blows the trumpet and you dance. So those structures that you think he didn't have, this was a governor. We are talking about a governor of a state. So I don't know what structure you want again than what a governor has in a state where he has no political godfather that will tell him, you are going against me, my decision. He was the political godfather in Osun State, as far as I'm concerned. So, and also when you look at from the discussion with some of the voters, they will tell you the man has done well. They will tell you the man has been paying our salary. Some will tell you, oh, the previous administrations, there was an administration that was paying us half salary. And when he was succeeded by another administration of the same party, the then governor told us that he was not the one that owed us, that it was his predecessor. So he does not have the resources to pay. But when Adeleke came in, coupled with the fact that Mr. President removed fuel subsidy and the states are now getting about 3 or 4 times their allocations, Adeleke cleared all the backlogs.
Very true.
Some will tell you, yes, when we were in Ife, some told us that Adeleke constructed a flyover for them. So those little things that you think do not matter were some of the factors that resonated with the voters. And that was how they made their decision. But it is not a single factor reason why they voted the way they were.
All right, so we've heard from you how Ademola Adeleke actually performed. You know, we do hear that politics begin at home. Let me get your line of thought as to how the APC and the ADC actually performed in their hometown and in their local governments regarding the election. How did they perform?
Well, you have seen the results. Ademola Adeleke of the Accord Party won in 19 local governments, while Bola Oyebamiji of the APC won in 11 local governments. What played out was that Adeleke won in areas where we expected him to win, and in some other areas where we knew there were other parties bigwigs. He also won in some of the local governments, and in some places where he didn't even win, he came very close to the opposition parties' bigwig strongholds. So Adeleke's victory was statewide. So it shows you clearly that for him to have garnered such votes across the state, it means his policies, his persona resonated with the people across all local government. So for me, it tells you clearly that this is a man that the people are at home with.
All right, so during the build-up of the election, we had some back and forth among political leaders. So I want to get your thoughts on the impact of PDP's Olagunsoye Oyilola endorsement of APC, Iyola Omishore, Francis Fadahunsi's remark, and the federal might at the off-cycle election. Or did the security deployments boost confidence? Let me get your thoughts on that. What impact did they have?
One thing you must get very clear about Osun State is that Osun State is a very politically conscious state. In every household, almost everybody is a politician, because that is a state that has little or zero industrialization. So what everybody feeds on is whatever comes from the coffers of the government in terms of patronage. And that is why everybody wants to belong. When you talk about the influence of former Governor Olagunsoye Oyilola, former Deputy Governor Iyola Omishore, yes, these are political bigwigs. But as at the time they threw their hearts into the ring, maybe their supporters had already made up their mind, and there was little convincing, that they could do to sway them. I wouldn't know, but in the days ahead, a lot of questions are still being asked. How did this voting go along this line? Maybe when we do, like we are doing a post-mortem now, Olagunsoye Oyilola is a prince in Okuku, that's in his local government in Osun State. Iyola Omishore is also a prince in the Ife axis of Osun State, and these are men who have, made their name in their chosen field. Olagunsoye Oyilola was a retired military chief. while Yolo Michure is a successful businessman. Maybe, I wouldn't know, but I'm just assuming, maybe they didn't oil the machinery of their structure for this election. And that, in a way, made their endorsement inconsequential. I want to believe that.
All right. So there were reports of tension, vote buying, and the use of tear gas. Noting that you were election observer in Osun State, did you document that, or how true are these claims?
Yes, my duty as an election observer under the rules of engagement with INEC begins right from if I'm available to go to the rack center to witness the distribution of materials, then to come to the polling station when election is going on, observe the process till the close of polls, as well as also observe part of the other leg of the results collation. We had reports, I must admit that even before we left for Osun, we have had reports that some political parties were already buying votes beforehand. If you know the level of campaign we have waged against vote buying, it was like that campaign deterred them from carrying out that act on election day, because vote buying is what we saw in some other off-cycle elections. So in this case, we didn't see any vote buying at the polling stations. It's like they had already concluded their businesses 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, 1 week before. So people came to the polling stations, they voted. Party agents were there. And one good thing about this election that also gladdened my heart was that, unlike other elections that we have monitored, where when you go to the polling station, you see just one political party or two political parties' agents at the polling station. In this situation, you had APC, Accord Party, Zenith Labour Party, BP, NNPP, ADC. You had almost 7 to 8 political parties agents in almost all the polling stations. And you were like, how come all these parties are able to mobilize their agents in these numbers to these polling stations? So it tells you clearly what I stated earlier on, the political consciousness, the political patronage that has made everybody to become a politician in Osun State. Unlike any other state I was in Ekiti. I witnessed the election in Ekiti. In the Ekiti gubernatorial election on June 20, hardly can you find two party agents at the polling station. It was only the ruling party, because the other parties were not in existence. They only existed on the pages of newspaper. But in Osun State, the parties that we didn't know their candidates also had their agents at the polling stations. And you were like, well, it shows you how keenly contested this election will be, that everybody is trying to pull this our weight. So the violence you talk about, the violence was before the election. I just told you that about the rack, Modakeke, where they said there was a tear gas that was fired. There's no voting station at the rack. The rack is a place for distribution. And when we made our inquiries, we were told that the officer tear gas exploded, that it was not that he fired. But I'm not the one to speak for the Nigerian police. They have a public relations department. It's for them to come out and say, oh, this is what happened. But we had different reports. Some said it was fired, and some person who said they were there themselves said it wasn't fired now. Maybe when they were sharing materials, that the thing exploded. The guy wanted, I think he said the officer was sitting down, and then when he wanted to stand up, that the can of tear gas, the canister, that it exploded. I don't have that fact, but these were part of the stories we had. But about the security deployment was perfect, because you had enough policemen, road safety, NSCDC, Nigerian Immigration Service officers providing security. At every polling station, you had not less than 2 to 4 policemen.
That's correct.
You had about 7 security. Then you had motorized patrols going everywhere, fully armed. In fact, there was a place where there was an information of an incident. Within a twinkle of an eye, you need to see how the security personnel arrived, the armed security personnel. So that was a message to everybody. And that was why on election day, you saw aged mothers, you saw nursing mothers, you saw pregnant women, you saw old men on crutches. So what else will tell you that nobody was intimidated? When you see a woman of almost 70, 80 bringing the granddaughter of like 3-4 years, and you see a woman breastfeeding her baby at the polling center, what intimidation will make somebody to come to the polling station with a baby that you are still breastfeeding and say you want to come and vote if there's intimidation? That's the pointer that all those talk about intimidation only existed in the minds of those who were mouthing it.
Okay, so on vote buying, we have the alleged video of vote buying in Osun State, which would play for you now. It was a video on the electorate shouting that come and see you, come and see you. So we're going to play the video for you now, and I'll get your thoughts on that. But pending when the video comes up, how would you rate its logistic, the vote buying video? How would you rate its logistics? Because there was a period that we had that the IREV actually stopped working for 3 hours. But now that our video is up, let's take a look.
Ni wọ́n fọ́lẹ̀ gígbò àwọn ẹgbẹ́ APC ẹgbẹ́ ọlọ́wọ́ wọ́n ń ta ìbò wọ́n ń rábò ìjọba náà fẹ́ gbà lọ́wọ́ ẹgbẹ́ APC o wọ́n ti ta gbogbo ọ̀pọ̀ wa tó ti rà pé ẹni lọ́dún ilé ẹni lọ gbé owó ṣé ń gbé wá ẹni lọ gbé àṣìṣe àtọ́wọ́ wa tó fi wọ́n.
Mr. Nelson, As usual, let's get your thoughts on that.
Well, that video, I don't know which local government it happened. I don't know the polling station. But like I told you earlier on, we had reports that vote buying took place days before. And if vote buying and selling is taking place in a place like that, and it was in Osun, one would have expected one of those persons there to have invited the police, to have made a call to, because the police made their hotlines available, so that we'll get to the root of the matter. So I don't have the, I won't want to comment on what I don't have the facts,
Okay.
even though there's a video, because the only authority I will listen to, if they are commenting on it, is the Nigerian police. So any other person, who knows whether they are even acting a skit? I've watched incidences where I was very agitated, and I just restrained myself because I didn't know the cause of the issue. But when I saw some scenes from the matter, as a human being, I felt pain. Only for me, 24 hours later, for the person to come out and said we were just acting a skit, and I was like, what? So this person just played on my emotional intelligence. What would have happened to me if I had a seizure because of the emotional distraught I went through? It was a video of a woman who claimed the man wanted to rape the daughter in South Africa. I don't know whether you remember that video.
Yes, I do.
And the woman now came out a day or two later and said she was acting a skit. Do you know the number of people that were raining curses? I was even saying, go and report at the Nigerian embassy, let them take it up with the South African government. Only for the same woman to come out and say, oh, it was a skit. Since that day, I vowed never, well, I was even lucky. I didn't make any comments. That to say, go and report to the police. I didn't say, some people were swearing, but I refrained myself from swearing because I was very cautious, knowing the mischief that the social media has been deployed to. So for this, I would have expected them to call the police into it. Then, we'll get to the root of the matter.
Okay, so let's talk about IREF's performance at the off cycle. There are reports that for about 3 hours, the IREF stopped working. Let's take your note on that. And you can also tell us what INEC should do in 2027 that's going to be different from IREF taking a pause during collation.
You see, I think it is important for the media to stop eating up our polity.
Okay.
I'm also a journalist, yes. When you are talking of IREF, it has been stated times without number that the IREF is a viewing portal. The IREF is not a collation center. That result that they are uploading to the IREF, it has been, copies of the results have been handed over to party agents as well as security agencies. And the INEC officer also has a copy. The man can only upload results if there's network. I was in Osun State all through. I stayed in two abodes. In those two places, if you come to my hotel, you'll be moving from one point to the other in order for you to have network. When I spoke to you on, I think I spoke to you, was it before the election?
Yes, it was.
I was in an hotel. I had to go to another room to get network, to be able to access internet.
So you're blaming it on network?
I don't know. I cannot blame it because I don't have the facts. Yes, I'm not blaming anything. What I'm just telling you is that the IREF is a mere viewing portal. It's just like in a football match. When a goal is scored, the goal becomes a goal as long as the referee points to the center circle. That the scoreboard is not functioning does not take away the duties and responsibilities of the referee. In fact, we have watched matches where a goal will be scored, and on the screen, the man in charge of the computer will change 0 to 1.
Yeah.
The referee will consult his VAR, and the referee will say it's not a goal. So will you say because the scoreboard has written 1-0, if the referee now says it's no more a goal, you now say the referee has compromised the game? So I think you need to let the people understand that, look, if you want to be looking at IREF, that is your cup of tea. I, in Kujimi, as an election observer, the only legal document that you can take to challenge any electoral matter is the Form EC8A EC8B, EC8C. Those are documentary evidence that your signature is. That every party agent present there has a copy, the security officer has a copy. There's even the other form, you paste it on the wall of the polling station of the results. So if you have signed on a paper, on the form, and I have also signed as a party agent, and we have written figures, go and change it now. Are you aware of what happened that made the Opuzodima become governor of Imo State? Where Opuzodima tendered results from his agents against what INEC was bringing then. Because the court told INEC, bring your result. INEC was dilly-dallying. The man said INEC did not compute this my result. That was why I think he came third or fourth. And when the court told INEC, bring your own copy of results, because INEC didn't compute that result, INEC had no result to bring. The court now ordered the police, bring a copy of your results. When the police brought the copies of their results, the result tendered by the police corroborated the result tendered by Opuzodima. So the court now ordered INEC, go and calculate this man's figures and let us have this. And when they calculated, I'm sure you are aware of that. Is that a fact or not?
Yes, it is.
So the court said this is the man that had the highest score. So when you are talking, would we have been saying we want to go and look at it at the IRF? When you know technology can do whatever it wants at any point in time without even notifying you. So if under the law, a political party is mandated to have an agent at the polling station, if you abdicate your responsibility, that is your cup of tea.
Okay, so let's take a look at the moment. Let's take a look at the moment that Governor Ademola Adeleke won the off-cycle election. The video will come up now. I just want us to see his reaction and celebrate him on his joy.
Ademola Jackson Nuruddin of Accord Party, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner.
Congratulations, Mr. Governor Ademola Adeleke. There is an intrinsic part that has been trending on social media at the moment. It's alleged that at the final stage of collation at the INEC headquarters in Osogbo, APC officials and agents were allegedly absent. As an observer, how do you interpret that decision, particularly at such a critical time?
If you have observed our elections, that has always been the trademark, the style of parties when they lose. Even at polling stations, you'll be at polling stations, and when you start, 7 party agents will be there, and when they start counting the ballots, Party A 1, Party 2 2, 1, Party A, when they count the ballot, and Party A has scored maybe 80, and Party B has scored maybe 5. Before you look round, the party agent of Party B will disappear. The law does not make it compulsory for you to sign. Once the polling officer is convinced that all procedures have been complied with, whether you sign or not, it does not take anything away from the election. If you don't sign, it is for you now to go and bring the result that you yourself manufactured that will be different from what was conducted at the polling station. So your signature is immaterial.
Shouldn't political parties still remain?
Hold on. You know our politicians are sour losers. They will never lose an election and admit, I lost. Rather, they'll be looking for where to lay the blame. Even when they know they have not. The election will be held. Parties will not have agents at the polling station. The party candidate will run to town and say the election was rigged. And you ask as somebody who is rational, where's your evidence that this election was rigged? It will tell you, don't ask for evidence. Just believe in my word of mouth that the election is rigged. Who does that? In so many elections, go back in history. Some of these party agents will walk out of the collation center. We saw it in 2023 now, where Dino Melaya as the chief a party agent of the PDP, walked out of the coalition. Have you forgotten? So the law does not make, if you like, stay and play your role to sign. If you like, don't sign. The law says you can sign. But if you choose not to sign, it's your right. It is not a crime.
All right. So
The
we're going to
polling
take
officer or
another reaction from Osun State people again when they heard that the incumbent, Ademola Adeleke, won the re-election. Let's take the reaction video now. Yes, so perhaps you're watching this. This is a reassurance that in Nigeria, your votes count. Come 2027 election, go to the voting centers, go to your polling units and vote for the person you want to rule you in the next 4 years. Thank you once again, Mr. Nelson Ekujumi, for joining us on this specific program. We are talking about APC's alleged movement at the coalition center. But one question I want to ask you is, shouldn't political parties remain present until the final declaration, regardless of the assessment of the election?
I've just told you that our politicians are sour losers. There's nothing you can do about that. Look at the 2023 general elections. Peter Obi claimed he won the election. Abi?
Yes, he did.
This was a man that came third. He said he won the election. He came third. When he went to the tribunal, what was his prayers? He said the court should declare the man who won ineligible to run. Is it the same thing like saying I won? He said declare the man who won ineligible, another a fresh election between me and the person who came second. That is to tell you the deceit, the hypocrisy. So you are saying that if in the law it is not mandatory. If it is mandatory, then it becomes an offense for you to walk out. But the law recognizing that you cannot make it a capital, you cannot beat a child and want to control how he or she will cry. So the law says be present if you like. But if you decide not to be present, that is your right. So parties moving away from polling stations, from collation center when they know they are losing, refusing to sign the result sheet, they are exercising their right. So long as the electoral umpire is convinced that he has done the right thing, it is not left for you to go to court and show the court that the electoral umpire has done the wrong thing. And if you don't sign, where is your evidence? That is just it.
Okay, so before I let you go, Mr. Nelson, what lessons should voters and political parties take from this off-cycle election before the next election next year?
Well, there are lots of lessons. The lessons we should take from this election is that we need to up our game with regards to voters' education so that come 2027 general elections, a lot of our people will come out to exercise their franchise. Then the political parties themselves, we must encourage them to always play by the rules, to be responsible and be civil in their utterances and their conduct. Then to the electoral umpire, we say kudos for a job well done in Osun State. We expect something better than this again from the general elections. So the security agencies, you have done very well. We know you cannot have this type of avalanche of security deployed to just one state when elections will be conducted in 36 states and the FCT. But for what they have done in Osun, we expect them to replicate this every time because the security of the Nigerian people must not only be guaranteed during elections. Even as we are talking to ourselves, via this channel now, we should be rest assured that if I go out there in the street, I'm safe. That is the responsibility of government and the security agencies, not only during elections. Thank you.
Okay, so and what I would say on a final note is the people who lost their lives during before the off-cycle election made their lives actually rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. Nelson, for joining us on this wonderful conversation. It's always a huge pleasure having you on a live news network. Once again, I'm Salemi Oladipo. Thanks for watching.